wrist injury sustained in training in Valencia in the days leading up to the Estoril round. Of course, Del Bianco replaced Degater at the 2024 French round, so he's a familiar face for the team. He's also been crowned 2025 Italian champion for Yamaha Italy. Toprak Razgatlioglu then leading the group, making his way through the final sector as he looks to complete a full set of front row starts at every round in 2025. Razgatlioglu and Bulliger, first and second in Superpole at 8 of the 11 rounds, including each of the last 3. That's where the fight for pole should be this morning. Razgatlioglu exiting the final turn. Remember, the pole lap last year, a 1 minute 37.596 for Nicolo Bulliger, and Toprak Razgatlioglu just over a tenth of a second shy of that, with his first flying lap, a 1 minute 37.707 to set the benchmark.
Fastest lap of the weekend, that from anyone, and Toprak immediately up to that speed.
Nicolo Bulliger, though, a quarter of a second faster at the halfway mark, and we know how fast a Ducati is through the second half of the lap, and it does look as though it will be Nicolo Bulliger who really lays down the benchmark time in our first stint of this Superpole session. We know that he's out there just behind Alvaro Bautista on the track as well, and Jonathan Ray also in that group, so there's going to be a lot of flying laps still to come as we head up towards the 5-minute mark in Superpole. We pick up Nicolo Bulliger now. Remember, he was the man who won the 2024 Superpole award, average P2 on the grid, and even more consistent through the Superpole sessions this season.
You can see how fast Bulliger is through these fast corners as well at the end of the lap. That rear end just sliding through the first of the right-handers. This is going to be unbelievably quick from Bulliger. You're going to be down pretty close to a 36.
Nicolo Bulliger, 4 times a pole sitter last year, 4 poles again in 2025 so far, chasing his 5th of the season here. Razgatlioglu said a 1 minute 37.7. Nicolo Bulliger goes into the 1 minute 36s. What a lap that is in his first flying run. A 1 minute 36.927 provisional pole for Nicolo Bulliger, and that's going to take some beating this morning.
Yeah, ridiculous lap that from Bulliger. He can park that bike at this stage, you'd imagine, and good lap there from Sam Knowles up to P2. 0.6 of a second down on Bulliger, and you're up in second spot. Similar
territory to where we were last year when Nicolo Bulliger pulled out that gap of 0.6 of a second and nobody could live with him. Razgatlioglu's made his way back into the pits, the end of his first stint, and somehow he's got to find over 0.7 of a second to Nicolo Bulliger.
He can't find that time. He hasn't had the bike underneath him this weekend to be able to find that. If Toprak's able to challenge Bulliger, that's the lap of his life at this stage. But for Toprak, you're still up there in the front row of the grid. That's still job done for what he needs it to be.
Important lap coming in here for Alvaro Bautista. He's down in 7th position at the moment with an opportunity to improve. He's gone on for a second flying lap. And Bautista, pole sitter here, of course, at the 2023 Spanish round. Could only qualify down in 15th place here last year. He was stranded on the 5th row of the grid, and that was on pure pace as well. There was no incident in that session. Alvaro Bautista really struggling in Superpole this season. 9 front row starts in 2023, only 1 last year, 1 this year. Has been a massive downturn in terms of Superpole results since what was his 2nd title-winning season in the 2023 campaign. Former pole sitter then here in Jerez, Alvaro Bautista exits the final turn. He's currently P7, and he remains P7, but does improve his lap time at his 2nd attempt. But again, the margin is a second to his teammate Nicolo Bulliger in provisional pole.
Yeah, Elon is 4th, and he's basically a second off the pace. It shows just how strong that lap was from Bulliger and what he was able to do. Obviously enough, fastest in every sector for Bulliger. He's 1/10 of a second faster in Toprak in the first 2 sectors, but he finds a 1/4 of a second in the 3rd sector, and that had actually been where Razgatlioglu had been stronger than Bulliger at times this weekend.
Quick word for Jonathan Ray. You've said how close it is from 4th position down. Ray slotted himself provisionally in the middle of the 2nd row of the grid.
Yeah, really good lap there from Johnny, a 37.9, so down into the 37s, but ultimately for Ray, it's about trying to consolidate now that position. Try and again go out there in your 2nd run, find the right rider to follow.
Yeah, maybe Bulliger's not the right rider, because to be within 9/10 of a second of him is a challenge for everyone at the moment.
Yeah, we saw it whenever we came to the shot for Bulliger down in towards turn 9 and 10 that Ray had lost contact with him, and ultimately whenever you've got a lap time like that, it's almost impossible to be able to stick with you.
See the movement on the bike here from Nicolo Bulliger as he reaches the end of his first stint back in the pit lane now, and you already feel that he could start celebrating another pole position. As I said, with his poles last year and 4 poles again in 2025. Looking for his 5th of the season. Has been very, very consistent, particularly in Superpole. If anything, even stronger in Superpole than in races, Bulliger. Only been out of the top 2 places on the grid at Balaton Park. He's beaten Toprak 5 times in the 11 Superpole sessions this season. And generally, the pair have been fairly evenly matched. But this weekend so far, Razgatlioglu does not have a lot of pace here in Jerez.
No, it's just been a question for Toprak of trying to find that right feeling on the bike. And he struggled yesterday with the front end in the first session, struggled with rear grip in the second session, and just hasn't looked comfortable on the bike compared to what we normally see from Toprak. But ultimately, he doesn't have to. As you said at the start of the show, Al, he needs 23 points to be able to wrap up the championship. That's the end going for BMW, getting to that point to be able to win the championship, probably in the Superpole race tomorrow. But it's where you need to get to that point and find a way to almost curb the ambition right now for Razgatlioglu.
The ambition is always for Toprak, go out, win races, win the championship, will take care of itself and so on. But if he does start to get beaten this weekend by Nicolo Bulliger, Ducati have the opportunity to wrap up that manufacturer's title because they do already lead by 3 points.
You can see there for Sam Lowe's just the strain for him. You can see it in his eyes there, down in the pit, second on the grid right now. And that rib injury is definitely playing a big factor for him this weekend once again. And for him to be able to put in a lap time like that, very impressive. We'll see if he's able to go out again and try and go faster, or whether that's the lap time he has to leave for this session.
Yeah, Sam Lowe's forced to sit out the 2 race days in Estoril with that rib injury sustained between rounds. So non-score for Sam last time out. And we'll see if he can take further participation and what he can do over the long races. It's going to be tough, but if he gets a good grid position here, remember that counts for the Superpole race tomorrow morning as well.
Obviously enough, he's going to be vulnerable to Toprak in this second stint. It's whether or not the likes of Ian One is able to find that quarter of a second to bring the pressure to him. You can see how big this group is. Jonathan Ray, the first rider out in this group. Bulliger and Ian One just bring their way up through, and Bulliger looks like, Ian One looks like a little bit of an ambulance chaser there to be able to make that move. Looks like Sam's going to sit out the rest of the session. Great job to be able to put it up on the front row provisionally from that first stint.
Yeah, just calling Leon Camir over as he makes his way out of the back of the garage, but Sam Lowe's has already set a good marker time. He's not far ahead of Toprak Razgatlioglu, but he has got a good few tenths of a second to the rest of the group from 4th position down. They made their way out of the pit lane. It looked like an FIM touring event rather than anything else, all in a big group and going for a ride out around this Angel Nieto circuit. But again, the BMWs working with one another. Michael van der Mark trying to follow his teammate in what, remember, is his final weekend as a permanent rider in World SBK. He currently sits in 12th position.
Yeah, for van der Mark, a second and a half off Bulliger's time. If he finds a quarter of a second, he moves up onto the 3rd row of the grid right now. That has to be the target for him at this stage. Stick with Toprak as much as you can and see what the situation is. Toprak's fastest time in the first sector at 24.2. He's matched his best time in the sector, but he's close to Bulliger as a result in sector 1, but it's about what happens in the second half of the lap.
Toprak Razgatlioglu with only 2 front row starts in 5 Spanish rounds. He hasn't always had the best of Superpole results here in Jerez. Was on pole here in 2021 in his first title winning campaign. He was 2nd last season on the BMW, and BMW have never yet had a pole at this venue.
Personal best sector 1, personal best sector 2 for Toprak. We'll see what he can do in sector 3. These are all pretty much the same pace that he was running on his first stint as well, so he needs to make the step in the next sector, and he's just about to come through to the end of it.
Razgatlioglu's place on the front row of the grid here is vulnerable. Alex Lowe's with good 2nd and 3rd sectors at the start of his second stint. We'll see what Lowe's can do in sector 4. He's currently in P6, and Alex Lowe's on the Bimoto. The number 22 will cross the line. He does go P3 to relegate Razgatlioglu, but Toprak has the opportunity to improve here.
Toprak's found a quarter of a second there in sector 3, and he needs to do the same in the final sector.
Razgatlioglu with 6 pole positions this season so far, the same number he managed in his 2024 title-winning campaign. Exits the final turn 2/10 of a second down on Nicolo Bulliger's lap time. He is still 2/10 of a second down as he crosses the line. Bulliger still leads, but it is Razgatlioglu's best lap of the weekend so far, and Michael van der Mark following him on track gains a couple of places to P10 as well.
Yeah, and we'll see who else is able to find something. Remy Gardner is probably going to be the next rider we see. Remy's on for a decent decent lap down in towards the last corner, trying to put it on to that second row of the grid.
Gardner 7th on the grid last Saturday, his best Superpole since the first half of the season when he was P6 in Most in Misano, his best so far in 2025. Gardner then crosses the line and moves up to P5, so if he can hold on to that, it would be his best Superpole effort of this 2025 campaign. Meanwhile, Nicolo Bulliger is up by more than 1/10 of a second on his lap record time set in the first stint of this Superpole session. 2 minutes to go, and Bulliger is going faster still.
Yeah, Bulliger on for a great lap once again. It's the likes of Xavi Vierge. Is he able to get into the mix? We know how good he is with the Q tyre, trying to move up from 9th on the grid. Bulliger just about to smash that lap record again.
Nicolo Bulliger then exits the final turn. He's already claimed the lap record. He's going to go faster still here. It's a 1 minute 36.629, more than half a second faster than Toprak Razgatlioglu's second and best effort. And remember, Nicolo Bulliger's pole lap a year ago, 1 minute 37.596. So almost a second faster than he went for pole here a year ago.
Ludicrous stuff from Bulliger to be able to pull these laps out, but he's looked so strong and comfortable all the way through this weekend. Xavi Vierge, he's made a good step forward the last couple of weeks for Honda, puts it up onto that third row of the grid, but you're a second and a half off the pace. You're half a second off the front row, but you're a second and a half off the pace of Bulliger. It really does just illustrate how good of a job Bulliger's done.
Remy Gardner's excellent lap has demoted Jonathan Ray down onto the third row of the grid. Alvaro Bautista down on row 3 as well now.
Ray had to bail on the first lap of the second stint, and he'll try and see if he's able to find something in the second lap on the tyre, but doesn't look like he's going to be able to do that.
Jonathan Ray, the 2019 Spanish round pole sitter. 6 front row starts in all on the Kawasaki at the Spanish round, but Superpoles have been tougher for him on the Yamaha. Doesn't look as though too many riders close to the front are going to improve with their second or in some cases even third flying laps in the latter stages. Just 30 seconds to go until the checkered flag. And in the end, a second place here for Toprak Razgatlioglu will be a good damage limitation effort because he was never going to get to Bulliger's pace.
It's also all Toprak has to do. He just needs to make sure he's able to score good points in race 1 this afternoon, and then the championship will take care of itself. That is the goal for him and for BMW. But BMW have a manufacturers championship to win as well, and I think that's where some of the pressure is coming on from Toprak as well at this stage.
Yes, the pressure to win races, the pressure to get the championship done with a day to spare has got to be part of it as well. And then the manufacturers championship. If he loses another 5 points, he's going to need to go out and win both races tomorrow in order to take it for BMW.
We've seen this movie before for Toprak, though, whenever he doesn't have that same pace as some of the Ducatis in terms of that raw speed, and that's Tulovic that's gone down at the last corner. But he doesn't have that raw speed, but once you get into a race situation, he's able to find that track position, and that's where Bulliger will know that he'll have to defend against Razgatlioglu despite having this big advantage in the Superpole session.
Tulovic, the wild card going down at the final turn, means that riders won't be able to improve on their lap times, although the yellow flag has just been removed. So Nicola Spinelli making his way through on the exit of the final turn will be able to complete his lap, but actually in the end loses ground in the final sector and fails to improve. So there we have it. Nicolo Bulliger, Toprak Razgatlioglu, and Sam Lowes is your front row. And Sam doing remarkably well to set a P3 time with 1 flying lap and then bailing on the rest of the session. But it does raise fitness doubts about his participation and certainly his stamina over the distance this afternoon in race 1.
I think the big thing for Sam is it gives him a front row start for the Superpole race if he's able to take part in that. You could see the strain that he's under, and a big reason for that is Jerez is quite a physical track because there's nowhere where you can take a break. There's nowhere where you can catch your breath out there, and ultimately that lends itself to being pretty difficult out there for a rider carrying an injury, particularly when it's a rib injury, because then you're naturally constricted anyway.
And there was me thinking the reason was going to be the pat on the ribs you gave him yesterday, Steve, when we made our way back into the media centre.
No comment about that. I did get a glare from Alex about that. And,
it is Nicolo...
I'm a gentle giant, though, Al.
Yes, Nicolo Bulliger P1, Toprak Razgatlioglu P2, Sam Lowes third on the grid. Andrea Iannone will be satisfied with 5th position, keeps him right in the mix for podium place. And you think about the number of times that Iannone this season has had a great Superpole followed by a terrible race, or a great race, but he's already wasted his opportunity with a bad Superpole. It's just up to him to put it all together over a full race weekend here. But with Alvaro Bautista down in P8, Sam Lowes not fully fit, the next best Ducati is Andrea Iannone. There's a chance for podium places for him.
Yeah, and for Iannone, we know how good he is around this track. We saw it from his 125 days into his Moto2 days, and obviously his MotoGP career as well. But these are the tracks that suit his style, and these are the days when you need to take advantage of it, because ultimately this could be the last time we get to see Andrea Iannone in a World Championship grid. He still doesn't have his future sorted for next season. Yeah,
still trying to find his way for next season, as we see the riders making their way back in then. Your front row starters, Bulega, Razgatlioglu and Sam Lowes, and what a demolition job that one was from Nicolo Bulega. And I said previously, we find ourselves in very familiar territory here in Jerez. Razgatlioglu with a similar points gap to what he had here a year ago, albeit in different circumstances. Nicolo Bulega now has a similar margin to what he had in Superpole a year ago. 5/10 this time, it was 6/10 last year. And of course, Bulega went on to win 2 races. So will Razgatlioglu be able to dig something out now before race 1, or will the championship go down to the final day of the season?
It's very difficult to see how it doesn't go down to that final day of the season, because Bulega has that speed. But Toprak, we know how much of a battler he is on the track, but nice to be able to see them embrace each other in Parc Ferme. Toprak knows how good of a lap a 36.6 is around here.
He's got to have respect for that lap time, as Toprak is congratulated by FIM President Jorge Viegas. Nicolo Bulega alongside him in our winner's circle, and Sam Lowes does bring the bike in as he completes the session in the pit box. Didn't go out for the second stint, didn't need to. Still held on to a place on the front row of the grid. And it's a reminder of the brilliant performances that Sam's been putting in Superpole all season long. This is his 5th front row start of the campaign.
Yeah, he went out just to do a practice start at the end of that session, and able to come into Parc Ferme there just to be able to take the plaudits for a great lap. And hopefully for Sam, he's got a few hours to try and find some way to be able to do the full race distance. It's going to be a struggle for him, but he's always been able to grit it out whenever he's needed to, but it'll come down to whether or not he feels that he's safe out there as well.
5th front row start of the season then for Sam Lowes, P3 for him. Toprak Razgatlioglu does indeed complete his run of qualifying on the front row of the grid at every round this season. That's 14 front rows in succession, and a new personal best for Toprak Razgatlioglu. For Nicolo Bulega, well, it is his 5th pole position, so his best season for poles of the 2 he's done in World SBK thus far. Alex Lowes with P4, and just under 1/10 of a second from brother Sam Lowes. They're going to be battling for 6th in the World Championship and family bragging rights and the battle of the brothers over the course of this weekend. Andrea Iannone P5. Good to see for Iannone, who finished the weekend strongly last time out, but that's his best Superpole effort since the French round in Manicourt. Remy Gardner completing the 2nd row of the grid. Best Superpole performance of the season for him. 3rd row, Jonathan Rea P7. Alvaro Bautista only P8, and that leaves him with work to do. But the consolation for Bautista is that Andrea Locatelli has only qualified in 10th position.
Just looking at the reactions down there for BMW, it looks like Toprak just struggling with the bike moving around a lot underneath him and chattering, and then just struggling for that feeling with it. Once he opens the gas, it suddenly starts to move for him underneath him. So for Razgatlioglu, it's going to be a long race.
He was talking about the same at the end of the weekend in Estoril as well. So, you do rather anticipate that he's a little bit vulnerable again in Jerez this weekend.
Ultimately, the change for the frame for this year, that's been the big issue for BMW. They found a way in the middle of the season to be able to maximise their package. A big factor in that is in the hotter track temperatures, their bike works better than the Ducati does, and that means that it puts the Ducati into a place where it's probably not as comfortable as it is whenever it's cooler temperatures like it has been here this weekend.
We're ticking off the lasts, aren't we, for Jonathan Rea? Last Superpole session. So many poles he's had during his career. 44 poles. Last going back to Assen last season in wet conditions. What a memorable morning that was at the Dutch round. It's 7th position today for Jonathan Rea. As I said, there's a place on the podium up for grabs here for a whole host of riders, with narrow margins separating them once again in that Superpole session.
Ultimately, everyone's struggling here this weekend other than Bulega, so that means that there's a lot at stake in the race. For the likes of Jonathan Rea, it's going to be tough. The Superpole race, that's his real opportunity, but he's going to be in the mix. The third row of the grid and 10th of a second slower than Remy Gardner means that he's not a million miles off where he needs to be, but he's got himself in the position to be able to attack on the opening laps of the races.
Even with Toprak on the back foot, he's still comfortably favourite for 2nd place, and we've been saying it over and over again, 23 points is all he needs. 20 in race 1. 3 points in the Superpole race and race 2. You know, it's a matter of course almost. But it does add to the nerves if it goes down to the final season, remembering Nicolo Bulliga's non-score in Assen, just as a recent example.
It's a matter of course until it isn't. And for Toprak, he'll know that ultimately you need to make sure you get the points on the board and you just get it across the line.
The loudspeaker, just for a chant of Nicolo Bulliga. We'll see what he can do over the course of this weekend, because we talk about the 23 points, but of course, in order for that to mean anything, Bulliga has to go and win 3 races, and that's not something he's managed since all the way back in Cremona.
Yeah, he's laid down a bit of a gauntlet to all of the rest of the riders out there, and this Superpole session shows the margin he has.
Andrea Locatelli, it's P10 for him. Locatelli, a non-qualifier obviously at the French round, but other than that, his worst Superpole performance since Most, but still not a huge amount in it. You know, he averaged 7th on the grid last season. He has been on the 3rd row of the grid 5 times this season, including Estoril last time out. So, you know, a couple of spots behind the norm for Andrea Locatelli. He's far from out of the mix, only 2 places back from his direct rival, Alvaro Bautista. But with a rib injury and making his return to action this weekend, Sam Lowes has put it up onto the front row of the grid for the 5th time this season.
Sam Lowes, great effort through the pain barrier onto the front row.
Yeah, obviously, I love this place. I love racing here, and it's a shame that I'm struggling a bit with it with my ribs, and to do the laps in a row is quite difficult for me at the minute. So we have to make a good plan for later on. But yeah, happy with the speed. Obviously, Bulliga was very, very fast, top rack as always. So I've been quick all weekend, but I just need to make a good plan for later, see if I can hang in there for 20 laps.
Well done, Sam. Thanks.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, another excellent Superpole performance from Sam Lowes. Remember, was the pole sitter in Assen, beat Toprak Razgatlioglu in Cremona, beat Bulliga at Balaton Park. He has been the only man, really, to mix it with the top 2 in Superpole this season, and he'll finish the year 3rd in the Superpole award, even after missing the Estoril round, only qualifying out of the top 5 twice in the whole season. So excellent Superpole performance once again from Sam Lowes.
Yeah, really impressive, and it's that speed all the way through this season that's been the biggest thing for Lowes, and a big indication of the step that he's made this season. And I think that for the Mark VDS team, they'll obviously be looking forward to next year and the chance to make another step.
Subdued Toprak Razgatlioglu, but it is the 50th front row start of his World SBK career and a personal best 14 in a row.
Toprak Razgatlioglu, a tricky weekend so far, but P2 and ready to fight for the title later on.
First, I'm saying congratulations Bulliga and Ducati, because he's did incredible lap time, like a MotoGP lap time. I'm not surprised, because I accepted this lap time, but not 36.6, but I'm very surprised for that lap time. And yeah, we are trying the best. We are pushing so hard for the good lap time, and I'm just trying to do my maximum. And now I'm just focused to race. I'm trying to going with Bulliga, but we will see. I will make a plan in the race, and we will see. You know, I feel positive, but in the race I'm trying to my best again. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Toprak.